Okay, so besides the future of the browsers as well as the digital wallets, there are lots of exciting new ideas incubated in W3C community groups. And next, we are going to have 40 minutes to hear what are the new exciting ideas. And the first topic is about ODRL from Renato. Renato, are you with us on Zoom? There we go.
All right, thanks. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm one of the co-chairs of the W3C ODRL community group, and I'm just going to give you a quick, very brief background as to where we come from, what we're currently doing, and what we're planning to do. So, at the moment, the ODRL is actually a community group, but it actually was formed 26 years ago, so it's been around for a long time, way back in the early days of the dot-com. Well, actually, we started when the dot-com crashed, but that's another story. But we started off as an initiative with some like-minded companies where we put together a policy language. In those days, it was more about DRM, so it was more of a rights management language, not an enforcement language, but an expression language. And we had people like Nokia in the group. And back in the early days, in early 2000s, that work was the early versions of ODRL 1.1 were adopted by the Open Mobile Alliance for mobile phones. If you've got one of the old phones from that period, there might be a bit of ODRL on it. But we also participated in the W3C work, and we made it a W3C note back in 2002. But when the community group process started in 2011, we became a community group, and we're developing more versions of ODRL, version 2, version 2.1. And around 2016, W3C approached us, or we approached them, I can't remember now, and we became a formal working group, the POE working group, the Permissions, Obligations, Expression Working Group. And we developed two W3C recommendations, the information model and the vocab and expression. So those ones were completed in 2018, so they're the two formal specs that are sitting there on W3C site. Then we went back to community group mode, and since 2018 until now, and then the community group has been working on best practice documents, more work on the formal semantics, working on some profiles, some more extensions to the vocabulary, and during that period, other groups have adopted it. The IPTC, as part of their rights ML standard, adopted ODRL. In the market finance sector, the market data profile was developed using ODRL, and other standards like DCAT refer to ODRL to use that for any policy language. So that's a very brief history, but more recently, some interesting stuff has been happening with ODRL. The big one there is that JPEG has adopted ODRL as the policy language for images, and that's a really great message back to W3C saying that the standard we developed actually been adopted by other international standards. In Europe, it's being used a lot. It's actually part of the rolling plan for ICT standardization 2026, as ODRL is mentioned in that that specification. And some other groups like the Intellectual Property Office and the Copyright Infrastructure Task Force, they're all recommending the use of ODRL for a policy language. In the data spaces area, particularly in Europe, a couple of big groups there, the GRX project and the International Data Space Association, all adopted ODRL as their policy language for control of asset usage. We also remain quite big in the media, publishing, creative industries area, but the finance area for the market data is actually becoming a big area, so a couple of big banks are pushing that agenda. We've had some more input from the museum community to start using some of the interaction with their standards and getting ODRL part of that. Some of the more recent work is with the AI opt-out vocabulary, so a lot of groups out there are now producing little AI opt-out vocabulary, so where you want to specify that you don't want your digital assets being used for an LLM. So there's a vocabulary there which we're working on doing an ODRL profile of that. And of course, it's also been quite big in the research academic area. There's lots of papers around ODRL for agents and for knowledge-based constraints and all sorts of things. So there's a link down the bottom there of the screen if you want to look into it more deeper. So there's been a lot of recent activities in ODRL. And I think that push at the moment has made us, and W3C now think maybe we should go back and review what to do next with ODRL. So the plan at the moment is that we are hosting a W3C ODRL workshop in June in London. We just announced that on Friday. I'll paste the URL in the chat in a moment. So that workshop, we've been trying to bring together all the current new stakeholders and new use cases to the meeting and discuss about how we can then formulate a new proposed working group for the ODRL 3 working group, or whatever we're going to call it. And hopefully we'll get a charter for that up and running this year, and hopefully we'll kick that off maybe around the TPAC meeting in October area. So the idea is that the ODRL 3 working group will then kick off for a couple of years, so late this year until 2028 or whatever. And that green bit in the middle there is not normative, but the sort of thing we want to work on is an improved semantic model for ODRL 3, improving the vocabulary, actually developing more robust ways to evaluate policies, which is one of the biggest areas that the community has been looking into. And also a more robust way to define profiles, because every community defines a specific profile for their use cases. And like finance has done that with market data, but we want to actually have a more formalised way how to create those profiles so that community groups like the data spaces and privacy and AI or whoever is in those green boxes decide to do that. We have a more robust way of producing those. And some of those profiles will be long term, so we may start up a profile in the working group, but we then might push it out to the community group as the working group shuts down and completes its work. So we'll go back to the community group work from in that last part of that last period, and we'll go into developing more profiles for different communities and the usual community group support and rec maintenance that we do all the time. So that's our current plan. We want to sort of reinvigorate the ODRL and restart the working group and actually develop updated standards that bring in the new use cases that we've had more recently from these new communities and sort of let them sort of drive some of the development of that work as well. So that's it for me. Thanks very much.